In 1982, West Concord Union Church Minister of Christian Education, Reverend John Danner, invited members of the community to come together to offer a new church program designed to serve neighbors and friends with developmental disabilities. He wrote, "Every person has spiritual needs and questions." Thanks to John Danner and countless other helpers and participants, an ecumenical Christian ministry called Sunday Fellowship has gathered regularly for the past 40 years, explicitly inviting adults with developmental disabilities to share worship and friendship. On this anniversary, we ask some folks from Sunday Fellowship to share their thoughts on why this ministry matters to them.
Hello, I'm Jean, and I had the joy of leading Sunday Fellowship for many years. 40 years Sunday Fellowship, not a bad start. And I believe it was started by John Danner and perhaps soon afterwards fellow Brit Roger Badham and a group of dedicated volunteers. I also believe that Roger Badham led Sunday Fellowship to the Massachusetts UCC conference. Wow, time to do that again.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I've had a lot of different roles in a lot of different churches, but I can say in all honesty that Sunday Fellowship feels the most like home, feels the most like the place where I experience the embodiment of God's love, and that love is shared with everyone who comes into contact with the community. There are a lot of different stories I could share of memories over the years, but I think what I most want to say about Sunday Fellowship is that it's filled with leaders. I remember the incredible testimonies that have been shared on Sunday Fellowship Sundays when we've heard about how people make sense of their own personal journeys and their own abilities, how people have been impacted by the changing accessibility laws in this country. But not just on Sunday Fellowship Sunday. Every Sunday, Sunday Fellowship act as leaders because they've helped this congregation to become much more welcoming to people of all ages and abilities. They've taught us how to have conversations about what our needs are. So that's a regular part of how we do community here at West Concord Union Church. And I want to say thank you to Sunday Fellowship and to the many, many leaders and participants over the years. Happy 40th birthday, Sunday Fellowship.
It's a joy to say a word about Sunday Fellowship. Now, when I first came to West Concord Union Church in the early 90s, Sunday Fellowship had been long established by John Danner in the 80s. And so I got to just simply revel really in the beauty of it. I loved how it added so much to worship and then just the togetherness of the group. I want to share one moment that happened in worship. I often would close the service with a benediction by holding my arms out. One Sunday, I began the benediction, and someone in Sunday Fellowship thought that meant I wanted a hug, and they rushed forward and embraced me. It was the best benediction ever. God bless Sunday Fellowship.
It was many years ago that I participated in Sunday Fellowship. It was very important to me to become acquainted with all those wonderful people. We had good times, we sang, we prayed, and occasionally we did a pageant to entertain the rest of the church.
My name is Joanne. I enjoy the fellowship with the people and the friends.
I think for me, when I think of Sunday Fellowship, it always goes back to the call. And when I say that, I mean it literally. Fran Gardella stood up and talked a little bit about Sunday Fellowship, this new program they had just started, and they needed some extra help and would welcome anybody. And I thought, well, there's my call.
My special memory was when one of the young women came into the fellowship hall, and she was terribly upset and angry because a close friend had died. And her anger was at God, and she just really was letting it consume her. And I suggested that we go out into the kitchen. And I told her that it helped me to talk to the person that was upsetting me, and perhaps it would help her. So she decided to talk to God, and she really let him have it. Told him how angry she was and why it was so upsetting to her and so forth. And after she calmed down, we went back and joined the group. At the end of our meeting, we had our prayer circle. She said, "God, you know what happened in the kitchen. Thank you for listening to me." And that moved me so much. And I sent up a quick prayer myself. Thank you, God.
I was very worried that our first meeting, which was kind of a picnic with John Danner out behind the church, and I think there were 8 Sunday Fellowship members. And I was very worried about how to kind of make them feel welcome, because I knew nothing about interacting with this population, with non-church members, and they made me feel welcome. I remember Carl Alden getting me a hot dog from the cookout and serving me. It was sort of like, welcome to the group. You're now a member of Sunday Fellowship. And I think from that point forward, I just felt clearly that this was a call not only to serve, but to be served.
I just want to share a couple of tender moments. The first one is Carl's funeral. It was a grey November afternoon. In fact, I think it was raining. And I was worried that hardly anybody would show up. When I got to the church, it was bursting at the seams. And if I hadn't had a small role to play, I wouldn't have got a seat. And the whole service burst with love for Carl.
Hi there, Maureen Nara. I was the game person. And we would do games like, what do we have in common? And it might be that who's wearing a blouse with a collar. And I would call people to the middle, people who had blouses with collars, or who was wearing eyeglasses, or maybe who had blonde hair, things like that. And eventually the group would guess, what do we have in common? And then typically, though, we would use a little bit of a lesson with it, and then say, well, what do we have in common? And it might be that we have common issues. Perhaps we're having roommate problems, or maybe we have a problem trying to find a job, or maybe we have in common that several of us have a birthday this month. So it was a game, and yet it was used both to have fun and to be a little bit instructive, to say that, wow, we actually do have a lot in common.
Hi, I'm Valerie Lesser, and I'm part of Sunday Fellowship. I remember going apple picking with them.
These were the members of the church who were going to teach me what Christian service was about, what love was about, what faith was about. I think our first Sunday Fellowship Sunday was the first one. The first revelation that, wait a minute. I mean, a lot of other people in church had the same, I think, kind of mystical experience that the rest of us had been privileged to have.
My favorite memory of Sunday Fellowship are the dances. When we first moved to Concord, the Sunday Fellowship dance in 2009 was one of my first events at the church, and I was there with my husband and my 2 kids, and we did the biggest conga line, and it was so fun. Love Sunday Fellowship dances.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I work with Man Arc, and I have many clients that are involved with fellowship, Sunday fellowship, and I've gone a number of times. And even had my own wedding there, and had all the clients participate as well. I think one of my most favorite memories is going to one of the pageants one year and seeing all the clients dressed up in their different characters and so forth, and they love doing it, and it's so wonderful to see their smiles, and they all love being in their parts and dressed up and everything. It's just a wonderful experience, and I couldn't recommend it more for anybody.
When I look back on it now, 40 years later, after the dances and the musicals and the events and the crises and the moments of sheer hysterical laughter, and taking one of our musicals on the road to the WCUC state conference and having everybody absolutely enjoying the musical because it was great. And then we have the t-shirts to prove it.
Happy birthday, Sunday Fellowship. It's Pastor John Hudson. I've been gone several years, but I still have such dear, fond, and wonderful memories of helping to lead Sunday Fellowship. My favorite memory, or my favorite gratitude, I would have to say that I could have a long, hard week at church, or have a lot going on, or a lot of pressure, and then on Sunday night I would walk in, and members of Sunday Fellowship would greet me with enthusiasm and with joy and with smiles and with hugs, and we'd do worship together and we'd break bread together. Always, 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 Sunday Fellowship just filled my heart with joy. And the people in Sunday Fellowship somehow embodied God's welcoming, inclusive, and amazing love.
Around the year 2003, I helped the church to convert Pine Street, which had been a rental property, a market rate rental property, into being a long-term rental with Minuteman Arc. And now we've had 4 people from Minuteman Arc residing in Pine Street now for 20 plus years. Like, how good is the fact that the church can have a relationship has lasted more than 20 years and strong.
On August 26, 2012, I was baptized in the sanctuary at West Concord Union Church. And one of my strongest memories of that event was after the baptism. Hannah likes the folks to wander around the sanctuary and receive folks' blessings and welcome. And so I did all that and came back to my seat, and suddenly in the back of the sanctuary, Charles Westcott suddenly just jumped right up and he marched right over to me. And usually he's very quiet and stays by himself in the back, but this was very unusual, and so I stood up and he put out his hand and gave me a big congratulations, and that was a very magical, wonderful moment in my baptism.
My time with Sunday Fellowship then also segued me to a time of board leadership on Minuteman Arc. It was really an honor and a privilege to serve Minuteman Arc, and I consider our relationship between Sunday Fellowship, West Concord Union Church, and Sunday Fellowship and Minuteman Arc to be an amazing community collaborative. And for that, I'm very thankful.
Well, I've been coming to Sunday Fellowship and I really enjoy it, and I've made a lot of friends here. And I enjoy coming to the meetings on Sundays.
So this is a letter written by Ann and Sid Siemens. Dear West Concord Union Church, we wish to thank you for the wonderful Sunday Fellowship that for many years, mid-80s I think, has provided the spiritual and religious support that our daughter Heather Siemens needs. As a member of that unique group, currently under the direction of Gretchen, Heather has been able to express her concerns about world events, peace, friendship, in a safe and understanding place. I'm always amazed at how relevant the Sunday Fellowship's prayers are to what we are all praying for. After September 11th, Heather came home from church and said she prayed for world peace, for the Italians, British, Spanish, Japanese, naming specifically people in countries we had visited. However, the crafts and conversation reflect their interests and capabilities. Heather spent last year with us in London, very depressed after some painful experiences. She missed her friends and next to them her church group. Many of the teachings and discussions in your group she draws on in her daily life. I heard her mention that in Sunday fellowship, they said you should not label people. We realize your commitment to Heather and her friends and hope you know that we as parents value this experience. Both Gretchen and parishioners like Vicki Andrews give so freely of their time and love when they each have busy lives of their own. Yours sincerely, Anne and Sid Siemens.
The other tender moment is Heather's baptism. Heather was suffering from ovarian cancer and undergoing treatment, so she had very little hair. She was dressed all in white and looked something halfway between an angel and a ghost. But when John Hudson formally asked her if she wished to be baptized, there was never anybody more enthusiastic. "Yes, I do," she said, and in that moment, she was radiant.
And I can't imagine church now without our Sunday fellowship members. It would be so empty of love. It would be so diminished if we did not have them.
I'm grateful for all of the joy, openness, and playfulness that Sunday Fellowship brings to our life at West Concord Union Church. I'm thankful for the spiritual leadership that this ministry offers to our congregation, teaching us about honesty, delight, holiness, accessibility, and so much more. Thank you to all of the people who helped to found Sunday Fellowship and who have supported it and participated in it throughout the years. Sunday Fellowship has changed WCUC and our wider communities for good, and it brings glory to the name of God.
Sunday Fellowship. Thank you for bringing so much joy and energy to our congregation. We wouldn't be West Concord Union Church without you.